Hello everyone, you are very welcome to our first and only video on Positive Production Externalities. I know you're all super duper excited, it's gonna be amazing, you're gonna learn so much stuff, it's so educational. I mean, we've got a lot in store for you today. So first off, Jeremy, one of them, who knows, is gonna talk about the graph and welfare loss. Then the next Jeremy, whoever it is going to talk about how to calculate welfare loss. Then Mia and I, Grace, if you couldn't tell, are going to talk about how to correct this. So it's just going to be an all-round fun time. So welcome.
First off, we will be describing the graph associated with positive production externalities. It consists of three curves: the marginal private cost curve, or supply curve, the marginal social cost curve, and the demand curve, which in this instance is equal to the marginal social benefit and the marginal private benefit curves. This is because the externality only involves production. One of the most important features of the graph is that MSC is below MPC. This is because the price of society will be lower than the private costs associated with the product. This is what leads to the positive externality of the product. In order to find the actual value of this externality, you must find the difference between the two curves by subtracting the MSC from the MPC. There are 2 points of intersection along the demand curve. The first point is where the MPC curve crosses at point PM and QM. This is said to be the equilibrium point, as it is the point where supply perfectly meets demand. The point where MSC crosses the demand curve at P-opt and Q-opt is said to be the social optimum. The fact the social optimum quantity, Q-opt, is greater than the equilibrium quantity, QM, indicates an allocative inefficiency as the market is underallocating resources. As introduced in the previous slide, there will be an underallocation of resources arising from positive production externalities. This underallocation is referred to as welfare loss. This welfare loss is the benefits that society has foregone by not producing enough of the product. In order to calculate the welfare loss, you must find the difference between the social optimum quantity and the equilibrium quantity by subtracting QM from Q-opt.
Now, moving on to welfare loss and how to calculate it. Welfare loss, as I'm sure you're all very aware of by now, is the lost economic efficiency caused by the under or over allocation of resources in the production of a given good. In this scenario, it can be calculated by subtracting the marginal social cost from the marginal private cost. This is in turn multiplied by the QM subtracted from Q-opt. This is all divided by 2, and that's how you calculate your welfare loss. On this specific graph, with these numbers, that simplifies down to $30, as can be seen. The other standard indicators on a graph remain largely the same. At the social optimum point, being Q-opt and P-opt, consumer and producer surplus are found the exact same way you normally would, by taking the area at the top of the triangle for consumer surplus and the bottom for producer surplus. Since we're at the optimum point, the external benefit is equal to 0. Whereas the total benefits would just be adding up all the parts of the triangle. As can be seen, we add A to B to C to D to E to F to G. At QM and PM, however, things are a little different. Consumer surplus is still found the normal way, but just with the new triangle with the new line. So in this scenario, it would just be A. Whereas producer surplus, same thing, it would be B and E. Although the numbers have changed, how it's fundamentally calculated remains the same. Since we're at the Q and PM now, there is external benefits, in this case F and C. It's essentially what you have is the area change, that whole corridor there of F, C, D, and G, minus the welfare loss of D and G. So that's how you find your external benefits. The total benefits would be similar to at the optimum point where you would add everything up, but since there is welfare loss, that must be taken into account. Thus, you would add up all the pieces of the triangle like before, but you must subtract the welfare loss, as that is essentially what welfare loss is. That's the benefit that's not being received due to that economic inefficiency. As you can see, it's fairly simple to calculate these things. It doesn't change drastically, and as Grace has very lovely put it, with all the letters corresponding to a specific section, it makes it very easy. I would highly recommend taking a screenshot of this slide for your notes, as I will myself. It is very helpful.
Thank you so much to the Jermeses. Now we're going to talk about correcting positive production externalities. It's the best topic. We're going to have a look at the graph and just have a great time. Look at this graph. You're probably all wondering, Grace, why are we trying to correct the positive production externality if it's positive? Well, the reason is very, very interesting. It's because even though there is a positive externality, there is still an underallocation of resources, so it's an allocative inefficiency. And the first way we can correct this is by direct government provision, which is what I'll be talking about, and Neil will be talking about the other one. So this is a solution often pursued by governments. It involves the direct provision of the good or service, just like it says. So this means that the government provides the good or service themselves so that we don't need suppliers. They do a lot of research and development for new technology, medicine, pharmaceuticals, and many other areas. And they can also provide training for workers. They pay for these activities with government funds, which are raised through taxes. So it's great, there's a circular economy, it's amazing. The government intervenes and shifts the supply curve to the right. My slide says the left, but I just wanted to add in a little Doylerism to make you all feel at home. So the supply curve is shifted to the right. That means MPC is now equal to MSC, and there's allocative efficiency. We're all really happy. It's amazing. The equilibrium is restored, and the positive production externality has been corrected. It's amazing. So I'm now going to hand you guys over to Mia, who's going to talk about subsidies, which is the second way to correct positive production externalities.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Now we can move on to the second method for correcting a positive production externality. That is, drum roll please, subsidies. Yay, I know, exciting. Now, I'm sure you all remember very, very, very well what a subsidy is, but we can just run through it one more time. A subsidy is a benefit granted by the government to a firm. A government can do this for many, many reasons, but the aim is to lower the costs of production so that there will be a shift in the supply curve to the right, bringing usually to an overallocation of resources. Now, in this case, a government provides a subsidy that is equal to the amount of the external benefit, that is the difference between the marginal private cost and the marginal social cost curve. So this will bring to the shift in the supply curve, or MPC, until it reaches and overlaps with the marginal social cost, so that we are left with just one demand and one supply curve. And yay, we can finally say we reached allocative efficiency. Wow, I know, this is crazy. Now I'm sure you can tell by the graph that the quantity increased from QM to Q optimum, and the price decreased from PM to P optimum.
And here are just our last few words of wisdom from our sponsor, Doyler. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you're now extremely educated about positive production externalities, and that you had just a great time on this adventure. But make sure, before you go anywhere, to subscribe to Mr. Doyle's channel, because it's the most important thing we could do.